Now, the world over, any politician who wants to vie for office must be married. In mature democracies, the handlers of any presidential candidate, for instance, will normally go into great trouble, to portray a happy marriage. And with good reason. It is very dangerous for somebody who is not married to be in a position of responsibility, especially in public office. And let me tell you why by giving an example that is slightly out of politics. I happen to know very many individuals who have built big fortunes, been very successful in business, handles millions and some of them billions of Kenya shillings, but then they have ended up being bankrupt. They have ended up sinking. The empires have come crashing down. And the main reason, because I know these people quite well and their background quite well, and some of them have done quite a bit of research, the reason why their empires came crumbling down was a woman. A woman who was not their wife. Fascinatingly, all these people I'm talking about were married. They had wives. But as the empires grew, as they made more money, their wives started being less important. They went out of their marriages to look for younger, more beautiful women. That is a recipe for disaster. And if you still don't believe me, look at the story of Samson in the Bible, Samson and Delilah. Samson was the strongest man who ever lived, a mighty servant of God, but he was brought to his knees, completely destroyed by a woman. Now the problem with men, especially as they approach midlife and after, is that they want a woman besides them who will tell them what they want to hear, and of course in the process swindle them, or in the process mislead them. Although most men believe they are too smart to be outsmarted by a woman. And that's the crux of the problem. Because let me tell you a secret today. God created a man and gave a man his strength. That strength is in the muscles, and some of it is in the brain, the way a man thinks. And then God created a woman and gave a woman her strength. That strength is not in her muscles. It's not. You know, I've been a student of life, a student of the human being and human nature all my life. It is something that greatly interests me. And I can spend hours of research, on this particular topic because it fascinates me. And I also look for practical examples. I have seen with my own eyes very powerful men, very strict men, lions, if you like, who have met a woman, and that woman has done things to that man, and the man has turned into a domestic cat, for real. Now, if the woman who has done this to you is your wife, there's no problem. There's absolutely no problem. Because your interests are aligned. It is a blood covenant, and you even have children who carry the man's blood and the woman's blood to confirm that blood covenant. And in this kind of arrangement, you will prosper. If you have a huge fortune, it will be fully protected. But try and put your wife in the back burner, shove her aside, and then bring into prominence your mistress. And your end will be very predictable. You're going to be finished. Now, let's go back to our main topic. You're in public office and you're not married. That is even worse. Because in all likelihood, you will have a few women in your life. And even if it is one woman, she's not your wife. She's your mistress. There is no legal binding between the two of you. So anything can happen. And women have a very effective way of making sure they get what they want. And so you're a naive man there. You think you're getting what you want. But in actual fact, somebody else is getting much more. And they're getting exactly what they want at your expense. I don't want to state the obvious. So let me just give you one more example before I go to cement my point. The way women were wired by Almighty God is that they were wired to have sex only with one man. So they have sex with that one man who is their husband, and they go crazy for that man. Yeah, and they remain loyal to that man. Now we live in a modern world where the manufacturer's handbook, yeah, the person who created us and wired us, yeah, in the way we behave, that manufacturer's handbook is irrelevant to most people. And so everything is going perfectly well in this marriage. And so the man decides he'll go outside the marriage and he has an affair. Yeah, nothing much happens. He retains his marriage. He retains his home. He manages to find a new kind of relationship with his wife. And things continue as normal. And the couple forgets that women were wired to be jealous. Yeah, very jealous. More jealous than men. So this nice faithful wife, yeah, who knows her husband is playing around, one day a man smiles at her. And one thing leads to another. And this faithful wife has sex with this man who is not her husband. And that sex makes this woman go crazy. Because it is better sex than the sex she has ever had with her own husband. And since women were wired right from the beginning, yeah, to obey instructions, yeah, and to be loyal to the man who has sex with them, and the kind of sex that makes them go crazy, what happens? This loyal wife changes her loyalties, and maybe she doesn't even know it. And by bad luck, this other man in her life had other motives right from the beginning. And the motives were to do with the husband. They were to do with finishing the business empire of her husband. So what do you think is going to happen? We see these stories in the newspapers every day. Yeah, a wife organizes for the murder of her husband. That wife is not bad. That wife is not evil. In my view, she's just normal. The circumstances were just created in her life, yeah, that were able to make some certain wires active. And that was the end. Now I'm fully aware of the fact that most of you will not listen to me. Most of you will say, "Ai, Chris, umemaliza siasa. Unaongea nini leo?" I know that there are even some of you who will say, "Chris, today you're talking rubbish." And that's okay. But for those who are wise, yeah, I just have one small piece of advice. Everything in the manufacturer's handbook cannot be ignored. Is key, is important, is so important that it's a matter of life and death. Everything in the manufacturer's handbook. Why? Because it is the blueprint of how us human beings were created and how we were wired. And more relevant to what we're discussing here, exactly how a man and a woman were wired in a relationship. And I'm afraid not even the most advanced technology can change that. So having given you that long background, one thing should be very clear. It is not possible for a man who is not married to hold an important key public office, yeah, like the presidency, or shall I say, especially the presidency or the leader of a country. For the sake of that country, that president must have a very stable marriage. In my view, it is a very dangerous national security issue if that president has a mistress. And the same is true for any other person in an important position of leadership in public office. The only difference is that the effect, the negative effect in a small office like Member of Parliament will not be as serious as in a big office as President of the country. Or Chief Justice, you can add the other offices you think are important. Let me not do that. Just add them for yourself. Never elect somebody who is not in a stable marriage. That is a recipe for suicide. And if you're a president, never appoint somebody to a very key, critical position who is not in a stable marriage. That's my view. Until next time, this is Chris Komekucha.